You know, every single time you shop online or check your bank account or even just log into your email, you're placing your trust in this invisible system. It's working silently in the background, making sure everything is secure. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and take a look at exactly what that system is, digital certificates, and what's called the public key infrastructure.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around why this system is so critical, we've got to start with a really fundamental problem, a question that honestly haunts the entire internet. How do you know who you're really talking to online?
I mean, really think about that for a second. Public keys, they're public by design, right? Anyone can make one. I can generate one right now. You can. A scammer trying to impersonate your bank definitely can. So just having a public key proves, well, it proves absolutely nothing about who you are. So how in the world does your browser trust that the key it just got from mybank.com actually belongs to your bank and not some clever fake? Well, the solution to this massive, massive problem is surprisingly elegant. It's a little digital thing called a certificate. You can think of it as the missing piece of the puzzle, the thing that finally connects a public key to a real, verifiable identity. All right, so let's use an analogy here. The easiest way to picture a certificate is to think of it like a digital ID card. Seriously, it's like a passport or a driver's license, but instead of for a person, it's for a website. So what's actually packed inside this digital ID? Well, it's basically a secure little file, and it holds two super important things together. An identity, like the website mybank.com, and that website's public key. But the real magic, the thing that makes it all work, is the third piece, a digital signature from a trusted third party. That signature is like an official stamp of approval, saying, yep, we checked, this key really does belong to this identity. And that is the absolute key takeaway. A certificate gives you verifiable proof of ownership. It's the difference between someone just telling you their name and them actually showing you a government-issued ID to prove it. One is just a claim, the other is proof. So let's just break down those core components one more time. Inside this digital ID, what do you find? Well, you've got the public key itself, you've got the identity info it's linked to, like the website's domain, and then you have that critical digital signature from a trusted authority that's basically vouching for the whole thing. Okay, but that leads to a pretty big question, doesn't it? Who is this trusted authority? And how on earth does this system of trust actually work across the entire planet with millions and millions of websites? The answer is something called public key infrastructure, or PKI for short. And it's important to know, this isn't just one company or one piece of software. PKI is the entire system. It's the rules, the roles, the procedures, the whole shebang that's needed to create, manage, and, well, trust digital certificates all over the world. And right at the heart of this whole PKI system are special organizations called certificate authorities, or CAs. I love this analogy. Think of them as the passport offices of the internet. They are the ones with the authority to check an organization's ID, to verify they are who they say they are, and then issue them that official certificate. Now, what's really fascinating is how this whole thing is structured. It's not just one big flat organization. It's a hierarchy, a chain of trust. At the very, very top, you have what are called root CAs. These are the ultimate authorities. They're so trusted that their root certificates are actually baked right into your web browser. Then, they delegate some of their authority down to intermediate CAs, kind of like regional offices, who then issue the actual certificates to individual websites like yours and mine. It's this chain that allows the entire system to work on a global scale. Okay, so that's all the background theory, but how does it actually play out in the real world? When you see that little padlock icon pop up in your browser's address bar? Well, that's where the secure handshake comes in. And this all happens in the blink of an eye, literally milliseconds. Here's what goes down. First, you go to a website and it sends its certificate to your browser. Your browser immediately looks at that digital signature. Then, it starts tracing that signature's authority all the way up that chain of trust we just talked about, looking for a match with one of the trusted root CAs it already has built in. If that chain checks out, if it's valid and unbroken, boom, your browser knows this site is legit and it sets up a secure encrypted connection. It's that fast. But any system that's built on trust has to have a backup plan, right? It needs a way to handle things when that trust gets broken. And that brings up a kind of scary but really important question. What if a certificate authority gets compromised? What if one of those passport offices gets hacked, or even worse, starts issuing fake certificates? Does the entire system just collapse? Well, thankfully, the answer is no. The system has a built-in fail-safe, and it's called revocation. It works just like you'd think. If your credit card gets stolen, you call the bank and cancel it, right? It's the same idea. A CA can officially revoke a certificate, basically sending out a global alert that says, hey everyone, this certificate is no good anymore. Don't trust it.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. Let's do a quick recap of the foundational pieces of this invisible system that we all rely on. So, what are the big things to remember here? First, certificates solve that huge problem of trust by tying a public key to a verified identity. Second, PKI is the global framework that makes this all possible on a massive scale. Third, at the very center of it all are the certificate authorities, the CAs, who act as the internet's gatekeepers of trust. And finally, and this is the most important part, this whole system is the foundation for pretty much every secure thing we do online, from banking and shopping to just sending a private message. The amazing thing is that this all works so smoothly, so seamlessly in the background that most of us never even think about it. But that leaves us with one last big question to ponder. What would our digital lives even look like if this invisible layer of trust just vanished? How much of what you do online every single day would still be possible if you had no way of knowing who you were really connecting to?